Hi everyone, in this video I'm showcasing one of the sharpest lenses that has ever been in my hands, so stick with me and let's see what the brand new Sigma 50mm F1.4 DG DN Art lens is capable of. But before we dive into the video, please make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and turn on the bell to get notifications for my next videos. So the Sigma lineup has been expanded with another fixed focal length DG DN Art lens for Sony-E and Leica-L mount, and it's a very important lens because 50mm lenses are one of the first things photographers put in their bags. It is very understandable as the field of view provided by the 50mm lens is extremely versatile and can be used in many different situations. In my opinion, this 50mm lens is one of the sharpest, if not the sharpest of all, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's see why it is a huge improvement over its DG HSM predecessor, firstly from an external point of view. The most noticeable thing is that it is smaller in all directions and 220 grams lighter, which makes a big difference. So it is relatively light and compact at 660 grams, especially given its incredible image quality, which we will be looking at later in this video. Staying with the design, it has received the functions of modern prime DG DN Art lenses, so it not only has a very finely adjustable focus ring, but also an aperture ring that can be adjusted manually, which is a very practical feature, but also a great function for videographers and filmmakers. The aperture ring has two switches, one of which locks the ring in either automatic or manual mode, so we can make sure that it won't jump from one mode to the other. The other switch allows us to choose whether the ring jumps into the different aperture values or can be adjusted smoothly within the entire range without getting stuck anywhere. This is a great feature if you want to open or close your aperture evenly, so filmmakers will love it, but it can also be useful when taking photos if you want to adjust the aperture with the greatest precision. Our third switch, of course, an AF/MF switch, which we can quickly and easily switch between the two modes. Besides that, we also find a function button, which can be programmed with any useful setting in the camera menu. The lens filter size is 72mm in diameter, which is one size smaller than its predecessor. By the way, the material used in this lens is incredibly solid and premium quality. The front lens is coated with a water and oil repellent coating, and the lens structure is dust and splash proof. But enough about the design, let's look at the autofocus right away. I'm never disappointed in the autofocus in the new DG DN lenses, and this one is no exception either. The linear motor is incredibly fast and accurate, and of course completely silent. In video, it perfectly tracked my eyes without any focus hunting or focus pulsing. It also did great in the fast-moving subject and face covering tests, even though these can be tough for a lot of modern lenses as well. I have a lot of native Sony lenses, however, I think many of them are not as accurate and fast in autofocus as this one. So congrats Sigma, you did a great job. In video mode, I can only think of one downside of this lens, and that's the focus breathing. Unfortunately, it is not very good in this category. Strong breathing is noticeable at the edges, but let's stay optimistic. Maybe Sony will implement Sigma lenses into the focus breathing compensation function, and then we can really talk about a perfect 50mm lens. In photo mode, I don't think anyone will surprise if I say that focus from one point to another happens instantly. The autofocus of the lens is incredibly fast in a way that even embarrasses native Sony lenses. Now let's see the incredible image quality and sharpness that the new DG DN Art lens is capable of. By the way, in my opinion, the Art lenses, especially the fixed focal length ones, have a completely unique effect that sets them apart from the rest. I don't know exactly what this is, maybe it's the incredibly sharp image or the unique background blur, but when I shoot with a prime Sigma Art lens, the picture have a completely different atmosphere. This is no bullshit, trust me, anyone who uses such lenses can support this statement. There is no difference here, but let's see what the sharpness tests show. Well, it shows that it is the sharpest lens that I've ever held in my hands. But really, even at full aperture, it's almost as sharp at 1.4 as it is at f2.8 or f4. Unbelievable details shown in the test pictures, and this is not just in the center of the image, but also at the edges. Here at the sides and the edges we can see a tiny difference when we stop down to f2.8 or f4, but this is still remarkable because the difference is only minimal and it already performs very well at f1.4. I was really curious, so I compared the Sony 55mm 1.8 with the Sigma, and the results speak for itself. The difference is already visible in the center, but we immediately notice at the edges which one is the better performer. Of course, you can say that it shouldn't be compared with the 55mm 1.8, but with the 50mm 1.4, but in terms of price, it is closest to the 55mm lens, but I will talk about this one more detail at the end. The chromatic aberration is noticeable when zoomed in 200% at open aperture, but it wouldn't be considered serious and can be easily fixed in Lightroom with a few clicks. Furthermore, stopping down to f2 it greatly improves, and by f2.8 and f4 it is practically gone. The vignetting is not drastical, it is noticeable at full open aperture, but it improves greatly up to f2, then gradually improves a little by little up to f3.5. And from this stage finally becomes completely clear. But overall, nothing serious, so feel free to use the lens at 1.4. Regarding distortion, a slight pinkish distortion is noticed, but it is not significant and can also be fixed in Lightroom with a few clicks if it is a real bother for someone. The bokeh balls are round even when stopped down thanks to the 11 blade aperture, and even at f1.4 there is no onion ring effect or vignetting in the shapes. Don't let the dust specks fool you, my sensor is just dirty, but I promise I'll clean it for the next video. There is a slight cat eye effect noticeable in the corners and edges, but I don't think it is particularly annoying since it can only be seen in the very extreme areas. If we look at a few real-life examples for general background blur, we can see that it is beautiful and very well controlled. In some situations it can be a little annoying, but feel free to argue with me in the comment sections because it might just be my stupid eyes noticing it. If we aim for the most background blur, we will get it at its minimum focusing distance, which is 45 cm, so it's not suitable for macro shots, but as you can see, we can get pretty close to the subject and it creates very nice separation, especially using an f1.4 aperture. So it's time to summarize and see what this lens is good at. Well, actually, what isn't it good at? Starting from portrait shooting through general use to even landscape and astrophotography if we are shooting from the right distance. The image quality is fantastic, incredibly sharp, and with the f1.4 aperture, we can blur the background very nicely. Its autofocus is so precise and incredibly fast even in video mode, which can be very important for many people. Its design is well built, the material of the glass is top-notch, the body is relatively light and compact, and it is also equipped with great features such as the aperture ring, various switches, and an adjustable function button. You get all of this for only $849 USD, which is not cheap, but in terms of value for the money, it is unbeatable at the moment in my opinion. The Sony 55mm 1.8 is currently $1,000, so the new Sigma is brighter, much sharper, and has better image quality, and I'm confident about saying that it is even faster and more accurate in autofocus than the native Sony lens. Of course, there is the Sony 50mm 1.4 and the 50mm 1.2 for $1,500 and for $2,000, but these are more than 1.5 or 2 times as expensive and may not necessarily provide better performance. Anyway, in terms of value for the money, the new Sigma 50mm is the champ if you are looking for a new lens for your Sony-E or Leica-L mount mirrorless camera. I can highly recommend it, and maybe it is time for me to replace my Sony 55mm as well. So that is all I wanted to say for today. If you liked the video or found it useful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel for more content like this, and if you have any further questions, please let me know down below in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, and see you guys in the next video.